Welcome. This is my third video installment. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln became our first Republican president. When I was in junior high school, I remember being surprised when I found out that President Lincoln was a Republican. I had always presumed he was a Democrat because he had freed the slaves, and my knowledge on Republican and Democrat ideology was limited during those years. So that led me to believe that Republicans, who were supported by mostly racist Southern whites during my lifetime, would have been in favor of slavery. So I was a bit confused, needless to say. When President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act in 1965, he allegedly said, quote, "We have just lost the South for an entire generation," unquote, allowing racists who supported Jim Crow laws and segregation to find a home within the Republican Party, where they have remained ever since, and it became known as the Southern Strategy. Whether President Johnson made that statement or not, it apparently turned out to be true. Since the late 1960s, there became a partnership between Republican voters and politicians. The Republican conservative voters are willing to believe the lies they have been fed by the Republican conservative politicians, who in return eat up the crap given to them by the Republican conservative voters, which ultimately results in either a twisted triangle, a vicious circle, or an obtuse square, even though reality doesn't support their beliefs. With this conflict, they have created an alternate universe where up is down, go is stop, black is white, and yes is no. And most importantly to them, wrong is right and bad is good. If you don't believe me, just take a listen, if you dare, to what any of the following people have to say on any given subject. Donald Trump, Glenn Beck, Bob Corker, Rush Limbaugh, Mitt Romney, John Boehner, Michelle Bachmann, John McCain, Paul Ryan, Lindsey Graham, Sarah Palin, Mike Huckabee, Jeff Flake, any Tea Party member, Rick Santorum, some NRA members, Marco Rubio, Sean Hannity, Mitch McConnell, Ben Carson, Carly Fiorina, etc. The Marines have a code of honor, integrity, respect for human dignity, and respect and concern for each other. But the Republicans have a code of dishonor, to lie to the public, cheat to win elections, and steal from the taxpayers. And here is that code of dishonor. 1. Republicans never answer a direct question with a direct answer. They'll just respond to it with any information they want you to hear. 2. Republicans do not compromise on anything, even if it's for the betterment of the country or its people. It's their way or the highway. 3. When a Republican is caught on video or audio tape saying or doing something that is damaging, they will deny any fact, ignore the truth, and admit to nothing. Who are you going to believe? The Republicans or your lying eyes or ears? 4. Any political weaknesses Republicans have, they'll just divert it towards their opponent and rely on the public's ignorance. What the public doesn't know can't hurt Republicans. 5. Republicans will tell their constituents anything and everything they want to hear, even when they both know it's a lie. Because in the words of George Costanza, it's not a lie if you believe it to be the truth. Republicans claim to support and believe in the following values, but they use this ideology as a tactic to get votes, not from their blind followers who will vote for them no matter what, but to camouflage their deceit through a popular message and gain votes from the ignorant and less informed voters. 1. Individual liberty. For Republicans, it's just a talking point with no actual substance. Free enterprise, only if it benefits Republican donors, aka Koch brothers, the NRA, Prosperity for America, etc. Limited government, which means Republicans can try to prevent the federal government, of which they are a part of, to try and obstruct Democrats from keeping a check on state and local Republican officials. Strong families, for wealthy and influential white people. Strong national defense, to keep other countries from doing to America what America does to them, and make sure that there is little revenue left so it can't go towards any social causes that can help the working poor or the middle class. 6. Greater opportunity for all Republicans who are powerful and wealthy. 7, elimination of wealth transfers, but not from the poor to the rich. 8, high moral and ethical standards, just for those who are not wealthy or powerful. 9, deregulation, to allow businesses and corporations to pollute our air, contaminate our food, dirty our water, and let's not forget about global warming. Human beings living in a 200-degree environment. Let's see how well that works out. Traditional values, usually with a Christian foundation. Yet, watch how morality goes out the window when it becomes inconvenient. So long as you call yourself a Republican conservative Christian, no sin is off limits. Here's a little known fact. If you take out all the vows in Reince Priebus's name, who was the chairman of the RNC during January 14, 2011 and January 19, 2017, it will leave you with the acronym RNC-PRBS, which stands for Republican National Committee Public Relations BS. Coincidence? I think not. 5 reasons why most conservatives run for office and choose the Republican Party. To eliminate taxes for the rich so that the wealthiest need not contribute to any of the financial U.S. government responsibilities, they'll just replace that burden on the middle and working class. To deregulate and allow unsafe and uncomfortable work environments. 3, unlimited spending for the military, which leaves less revenue for social causes. 4, maintain control over the 3 branches of the U.S. government. 5, to get rid of or privatize Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, as well as abolish the ACA, the FDA, the EPA, and the IRS. That is all what the Republicans stand for. Their end is drawing near, and they only have themselves to blame. When a person decides to run for elected office, there are a few questions that one needs to ask themselves and the voters have a right to know. The first question is, why are you running for office? Is it because you want to enact into law your own personal views and the views of those who voted you into office? Or is it because you feel that you can contribute something for the betterment of society as a whole? Question 2, do you have the understanding and wisdom to acknowledge that even though not everyone voted for you, that it is still your responsibility and duty to represent all the citizens of your town, city, state, or country? If the answer is yes, you're truly qualified to run for office. But if the answer is no, heaven help us. The third and final question. Once you're in office, do you intend to make an effort to work with and not against your fellow colleagues, especially when you agree on a problem but disagree on how to solve it? So no matter how long it takes, you're willing to come up with a solution to solve the problem because it's in the people's best interest to do so, and not just claim you want to solve it, but yet do everything in your power to block, impede, or shut down progress. With that being said, now is the time to ask, who truly is responsible when there's gridlock in Congress? Is it Congress as a whole, or does the dysfunction lie much deeper? Are the Democrats or the Republicans mostly responsible, or could it be the president himself? What is the cause of the gridlock and who is to blame? That is a question that can be easily answered by these simple words. Either it's because one side believes in cooperation and compromising, while the other side believes in ideology and principles. Before we decide which party represents which beliefs, we must first understand what will likely be the results of those beliefs. What do you get when 2 sides with opposing views decide to cooperate and compromise with each other? In my opinion, you get the job done, because you have adults realizing that as an elected official who represents their constituents in either their district or state, as well as the country overall, they choose to put aside their differences and cooperate with each other and find a middle ground through compromising. That's one of the reasons that made this country the greatest nation on earth. United, we stand. What do you get when two sides with opposing views decide to maintain their ideology and principles at any and all costs? In my opinion, you get gridlock because you have adults behaving like children who have never grown up and will huff and puff and hold their breath until they get their way. It is one thing when you have spoiled brats on a playground behaving that way. They're children. You do not expect them to know any better. Nevertheless, you try to teach them the consequences of such childish behavior, and as they grow and mature into adulthood, you hope they will learn from that. However, or I should say, you hope they will learn that lesson. However, when you have adults who are elected to an important office such as the Senate or the House of Representatives, and you have that same childish behavior, that's a serious problem with serious consequences, and that will result into a failure of the country. Divided, we fall. What do you get when one side wants to get things done by cooperation and compromising, and the other side continue to maintain their ideology and principles? In my opinion, you get a dysfunctional Congress, a broken system, and a laughingstock government. Once again, divided, we fall. Perhaps the president himself is to blame. In 2008, when then Senator Obama ran for president, he ran on the motto, "Yes, we can," referring to changing the way Washington does business. What did he mean by that? What did he mean by change? And yes, we can. In my opinion, what he meant by that was a belief system of cooperation and compromising. And during his first term, that is exactly what I saw him try to do time and time again. Even though that was one of the main reasons why I voted for him, I began to get frustrated with him because he had continued to maintain that idea, even though it was clear from the start that the Republicans were never going to work with him on anything for any reason. When he was reelected, he saw their refusal to work with him continue, but he remained optimistic and hopeful that the Republicans would come around sooner or later. But due to their steadfast attitude of saying no to everything, he had to take executive action on occasions, and so that something would get done. If either the Democrats or President Obama was the problem, then the Republican politicians, along with the Tea Party, were clearly the cause and should have been held totally responsible. President Obama was about cooperation and compromising, while the Republicans were about ideology and principles. Thank you for listening, and I will be back with another video. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and leave your comments down at the bottom. Remember, making a difference starts with you. You're either the cause or the solution to a problem. Thank you.